I was pretty happy to see it. He wasn't a full participant. He was out there for most of the practice, did as much as he could, and we'll see how he progresses as the week goes on.
Still unsure. Up in the air. Went out there today. Felt pretty good. So go from there. Whenever you have like a knee injury, it's a little weird. I try to stay as positive as possible, and I mean, lucky for me is that it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
While Hamilton is taking it day by day, so is this entire Ravens roster. On this same day, potential home playoff ticket sales were announced for this Friday. This roster is just trying to stay focused on the Jaguars as they hold on to first place in the AFC playoff picture with 4 games to go.
We're going to try to win as many games as we can, climb as high as we can, but really just play one play at a time as well as we can, compete as hard as we can, every single play, every single series, every single quarter, every single game. And that's our focus, and that's really all we're thinking about.
Back to the Ravens' perfect attendance today. If Hamilton cannot go, they have plenty of depth with the return of cornerback Pepe Williams from ankle surgery to the active roster. To the offense, he might be 4th on the depth chart, but quarterback and teammate of Lamar Jackson's at Louisville, Malik Cunningham, made his Ravens practice debut today. The Ravens had an open spot for Cunningham with wide receiver and return specialist Devin Duvernay added to the injured reserve with a back injury. He could, though, return this season just in time for playoffs. Reporting in Owings Mills, I'm Morgan Atzett for Sports Unlimited.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock, a Brewers Hill community raises concerns about crime. We speak with residents about their frustrations. Baltimore City may see the year of 2023 with fewer than 300 people killed. We sit down with Maryland's U.S. attorney to talk about his crime-fighting strategy.
Residents expressing frustration over an increase in crime, how the Brewers Hill community is making its voice heard. Homicides down across the city. We speak with U.S. Attorney Eric Barron about his crime-fighting strategy. And some breaking news tonight as the House votes to formalize an impeachment inquiry into President Biden.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
We have breaking news to report out of Washington. The House votes to formally authorize an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. House Speaker Mike Johnson calling that vote a, quote, necessary next step. Now, the vote comes on the same day as the president's son, Hunter Biden, defied a subpoena to appear for a closed-door deposition. Instead, Hunter Biden said that he would testify publicly. He admitted he was irresponsible with his finances when he was addicted to drugs, but says his father had no involvement in his business dealings. Now, this is a developing story, so stay with Fox 45 News for the latest updates on air and online.
Safety is a concern. I think for everyone, it's a concern for me and my family.
Residents across the city calling for change after an increase in crime. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala. The latest frustration coming from the Brewers Hill neighborhood, with the neighborhood association there sending a letter to their local representative expressing their concerns. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor spoke with residents about what they want to see from lawmakers.
It's one of Baltimore's safest neighborhoods, right next to Canton and close to the waterfront. Brewers Hill residents telling me that this area used to be relatively crime-free, but some say all of that changed within the last year or so, right around the time that the new Juvenile Justice Reform Act went into effect.
Keeping a watchful eye from up above, the historic Mr. Bo sign, a renowned landmark overlooking Baltimore's Brewers Hill neighborhood.
Safety is a concern. I think for everyone, it's a concern for me and my family.
As some of the residents down below,
it's been challenging over the last year because a lot of people just don't have that comfort level.
Now urging lawmakers to take a closer look at an uptick in juvenile crime in their community.
We've had an assault that's actually taken place right up along Fagley Street.
Just around these few blocks alone,
we had some individuals that stole some vehicles, and we've had vehicles broken into.
Brewers Hill Neighbor Association President Brent Fisher.
We normally don't have those type of activities here in the neighborhood.
Claiming young offenders are putting residents on edge and at risk. In a letter sent to Delegate Luke Clippinger, the association writing, quote, "We are deeply troubled by the surge in juvenile crime, specifically an increase in homicides, non-fatal shootings, armed carjackings, and car thefts within our district and across Baltimore." The letter going on to demand tangible changes to the juvenile justice system, including the charging process for juveniles, amendments to probation periods for cases involving illegal firearms and felony offenses, revisions around competency commitments, increased transparency around the juvenile home monitoring system, and changes to restrictions on police interrogations of juveniles.
We want to have that accountability piece.
Echoing calls and concerns also being shared by police and prosecutors.
There's nothing the law will allow us to do to hold them accountable, and they're doing whatever they want.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day.
The hope with this letter and having these conversations that when the next session in January that, they can find viable solutions to right the ship and get the proper laws in place.
New laws that could have been worked out this summer during a special session. Instead, Governor Westmore refusing to call for one, waiting until next year to look into new legislation.
Fisher and Delegate Clippinger plan to meet for a sit-down discussion within the coming weeks. I also asked Clippinger, what new legislation are you planning to propose to help curb juvenile crime? He claims that legislation is still being drafted. This is the legislative session, now just 1 month away. Reporting in Brewers Hill, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Senate President Bill Ferguson is holding a town hall next week aimed at addressing juvenile crime and public safety across the city. The 3 state delegates who represent South and East Baltimore will be on the panel, along with DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi. Now, Schiraldi is facing some criticism over his views on juvenile crime. He believes young people shouldn't be exposed to the adult prison system until they turn 25. Some former lawmakers and police leaders are pushing back, saying those policies making Maryland less safe.
You're basically saying up until the age of 25, which is what he wants to do, you get a free ride.
Unfortunately, legislators, lawmakers have decided that it's better to support the lawbreakers rather than those who are enforcing the law.
Schiraldi also supports ending probation and parole for offenders of any age. Governor Wes Moore stands by the work of DJS, calling Schiraldi a reformer. Now, right now, homicides and non-fatal shootings are down across the city. And for the first time in years, Baltimore may actually finish 2023 with less than 300 homicides. Alexa Asheville sat down with the U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland to talk about his crime-fighting strategy.
Maryland's U.S. Attorney Eric Barron believes the reduction in homicides and non-fatal shootings across Baltimore is due to the work and partnerships between federal, state, and local agencies. I asked specifically how his strategy has impacted the crime fight.
Well, our strategy has been focused. It's been aggressive. We're all on the same page. We meet regularly, formally and informally. We're communicating seamlessly. We're all working together up and down the line, all across the chain, from local, state, federal law enforcement agencies. And so when you do that, you're going to succeed. So, it starts with accountability.
Nearly a year and a half ago, Barron announced new actions his office would be taking to address the violence. This included adding prosecutors, investigators, and analysts to his office, reviewing firearms cases for violations of federal statutes, and investigating repeat violent offenders and taking them off the streets by, quote, any means necessary, such as fraud. Barron calling this an Al Capone prosecution style. I asked if he believes this, in fact, has benefited the city.
I hope so. The question is it sustainable? We got to, keep working as a team. Like I said, Lamar Jackson doesn't do it alone, right? He has 10 other players on the field with him.
Barron says his office has also incorporated prevention and intervention. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News invites you to join us for a Your Voice, Your Future public safety town hall. City Councilman Eric Costello and mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon will be on our panel. It takes place Wednesday, December 20th at 7 p.m. at Leadenhall Baptist Church.
These amendments are a slap in the face to the Blue Ribbon Commission.
We talk about sort of like the fox guarding the hen house. And when we get groupthink, we know what we're going to get in terms of response.
A heated debate during last night's Baltimore County Council meeting as Council Chair Julian Jones defended his bid to potentially weaken the office of the Inspector General. Jones still refusing to say who worked with him on controversial amendments to a bill 2 years in the making. The original bill was designed to strengthen the Inspector General's ability to combat waste, fraud, and abuse. But many say Jones's amendments strip the IG of her powers. Baltimore City IG Isabel Cumming weighing in on one of those proposed amendments, an oversight board for the Office of the Inspector General.
What he is suggesting is an oversight board, a group that would actually know what investigations an Inspector General would have ahead of time, a group that would be able to edit and actually suggest changes to the Inspector General. As a national officer, I can tell you this is unheard of, unprecedented, and immediately would cause Baltimore County to fail a peer review by the Office of the Inspector General.
Cumming also notes Council Chair Jones is one of the only council members who has been investigated by the Inspector General not once but twice.
A group of lawmakers warning about the economic fallout of a U.S.-China conflict. I'm Atra El-Nashar with what they say needs to change to protect the U.S. from a worst-case scenario.
And over the next few hours, our temperatures will fall to the mid-30s, but overnight, we're talking the 20s. I'll let you know what to expect for tomorrow and when we have the next warm-up coming up in my full forecast. Right now, you're taking a look over Baltimore and Towson, where it's nice and quiet, starting to get a little chilly. On the HD radar, not too much happening around our area, but our next weather maker is on the way, and that's what's going to end this dry stretch, bringing rain this weekend. 39 currently, and temperatures quickly starting to fall. Nice and clear over Baltimore. Notice the wind chill coming in the mid-30s, so certainly feeling much cooler than actual temperatures. We're seeing the 30s and the 40s around the state. A couple spots still hanging on to the 40s, but it's actually Ocean City at 45, the high spot on our map right now. Tonight, you can expect temperatures falling to the 20s and 30s. Most of us waking up to below freezing temperatures. Be sure that you're giving your cars some extra time to warm up in the morning. You'll need the layers for the afternoon as our temperatures reach the mid to upper 40s, keeping us close to average. We'll have plenty of sunshine, but if you've been waiting for higher temperatures, those are going to come for the weekend. We'll stay nice and quiet thanks to high pressure building over our region. With that high pressure system, you can expect plenty of sunshine tomorrow and again on Friday. But once that high pressure system moves out of our region, we'll have that next weather maker. We start tomorrow morning with nice and clear conditions. Then for the afternoon, plenty of sunshine. After that, a nice and quiet and clear start to the day on Friday. Sunny skies for the afternoon, and then for Saturday morning, we'll wake up to a few more clouds. High pressure will move away from our region, and as that happens, the next weather maker starts to move in. This is going to lead to the chance for showers, mainly starting in the afternoon on Sunday. That rain, though, is going to continue throughout the afternoon and overnight. We're looking at a better chance for showers on Monday, but we finally start to dry out on Tuesday and Wednesday of the upcoming week. Tonight, our temperatures drop to 28. It will be clear and cold. Then tomorrow, we're looking at highs around 47 with plenty of sunshine and light winds. But again, the warm-up is going to follow for the weekend. I'll let you know just how high the temperatures get and how long we enjoy the warmer weather coming up in the exclusive 10-day forecast.
Well, Congress's Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party is out with a new report warning the U.S. economy is unprepared for a potential conflict with China. Sinclair national correspondent Atra El-Nashar joins us to explain their findings tonight. Atra, good evening.
Hey, good evening. You know, this is an issue where Democrats and Republicans are in lockstep with each other, almost in lockstep. It's one of those rare issues. And they have taken some steps over the last few years, like pass the CHIPS and Science Act to address some of those concerns related to science and technology. But in this new report, the committee says that in order to protect U.S. national security, Congress needs to do a whole lot more, and quickly.
U.S.-China relations are at a low point. Tensions flared over spy balloons and China's close ties to Russia. In the minds of U.S. officials, a dreaded escalation would be China invading Taiwan, which could potentially drag U.S. forces into a conflict with China. The Washington Post reports the Chinese military is bolstering its cyber efforts to attack key American infrastructure in the event of a conflict. It coincides with the release of a new report from the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party that says the United States lacks a contingency plan for the economic and financial impacts of conflict with the People's Republic of China.
The inescapable economic reality is that the United States remains dangerously dependent on the CCP.
For things like semiconductors and rare earth minerals, the committee says, putting forth 150 recommendations to fortify America's economy and put it in a position to outcompete China. Calling for a reset of the U.S.-China trade relationship to crack down on unfair practices, restrict the flow of U.S. investment and technology that fuels China's military modernization and human rights abuses, and make sure the U.S. leads the world in tech advances like artificial intelligence.
If we don't get back where we are a world power, where we can build and make things over here, China is going to rub our nose in the dirt.
All of this comes with risk. For example, American farmers could be the target of Chinese retaliation if the U.S. were to change its normalized trade status or hit China with new tariffs. One model by Oxford Economics shows a scenario like that could cost the U.S. economy almost $2 trillion over 5 years and eliminate more than 800,000 jobs.
Now, a lot of what the committee is calling for relies on action from Congress, but there is a role that the private sector has to play too, Mary. American banks. The committee wants to see American banks undergo stress tests by the Federal Reserve to see how they would hold up in a situation where they're suddenly cut off from the Chinese market.
That'll be interesting. The committee also has some specific recommendations, Audra, designed to crack down on forced labor of Uyghurs in China. What does that look like?
Yeah, this is something that we've been covering closely. So right now, it's against the law in the U.S. for products to be shipped into the U.S. that come from the Xinjiang region of China. It's a region where the State Department says genocide and crimes against humanity, like forced labor, are ongoing against Uyghurs. Now, there's also a rule called de minimis. It's a trade loophole that means anything valued under $800 US is essentially exempt from scrutiny or close inspection or duties. And so what the committee here wants to do is lower that threshold. So it's less than $800 so that more of these packages, a lot of times it's fast fashion packages, go without scrutiny. They want to make sure that more of these packages are being looked at carefully so that the U.S. isn't knowingly or unknowingly benefiting from forced labor.
And consumers not knowing where it's coming from. And that's part of it. All right. So interesting. Atra El-Nashar, live for us tonight in D.C. Thank you.
Thanks.
Turning now to the war in Israel, the U.S. State Department responding after the United Nations General Assembly voted to demand an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. The U.S. and Israel were among just 10 members to vote against the resolution. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller says the vote makes it clear the world wants the conflict to end. He notes the U.S. shares that goal, but adds now is not the time for Israel to stop its military campaign.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Ice spikes forming in northeast Tennessee. How does this rare thing happen? First, water freezes on the surface from the outside, leaving a tiny hole in the middle. As the ice forms below the surface, depending on the rate of freezing, water gets pushed up through that hole, freezing as it meets the air. The spike continues growing until all the water is frozen. All this because water expands as it freezes.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Car thefts aren't just a problem here. In Baltimore, they're on the rise in cities across the nation. Why some are calling for a recall on Hyundais and Kias. Carjackings aren't just a problem here in Baltimore. The Seattle City Council is following a national push to recall certain Kia and Hyundai vehicles after a massive spike in car thefts there. Chris Daniels from our Sinclair sister station in Seattle tells us how local leaders are tackling the issue from coast to coast.
It is a tale spawned by the TikTok generation, which has spread over social media, the Hyundai hack and Kia-related crimes. Is this a public safety threat?
This is a public safety threat.
That's why Seattle City Council member Lisa Herbold, in one of her last acts as an elected official, sponsored a resolution to urge the feds to recall certain Kia and Hyundai models, saying the car makers are not doing enough on their own.
These particular makes and models that don't have the anti-theft devices are typically the low-end models, which means that it's most likely people of limited means who are having their vehicles stolen. They're also having a hard time getting access to car insurance because insurers don't want to insure folks.
Request for federal action, recall Kia and Hyundai models.
It follows similar action in cities like Baltimore.
Over the past year, car thefts in Baltimore have surged by 220+%, with nearly half involving Kia and Hyundai models.
They adopted the resolution last month, but both car makers are defiant in statements to Como News. Kia saying it has compiled fully with requirements and the lawsuits and resolutions are without merit. Hyundai suggesting the problems are only with models not equipped with push-button ignitions and engine immobilizers. And dealers are maximizing the number of anti-theft software installations that can be performed on a daily basis, which we report to NHTSA weekly. How does a resolution help, though?
The point of the resolution is to convey that message to a federal delegation. And our federal delegation can certainly make the call to the federal government for a recall.
Until that happens, and this continues to happen, it is likely the pressure will continue from Seattle and beyond.
We've got another day of temperatures in the 40s before our weekend warm-up. Tomorrow we're looking at 47, close to average with plenty of sunshine, and then a 9-degree warm-up on Friday. Highs will be around 56. 56 again on Saturday with partly cloudy skies, and then the next weather maker arrives on Sunday. We're looking at the mid-50s and showers starting in the afternoon. Rain continues overnight and into Monday, but after that we stay mostly dry with cooler temperatures. Mary?
Jasmine, thank you. Well, finally tonight, the Lord Baltimore Hotel getting into the Christmas spirit with an exciting new attraction. Be More Lifestyles' Mark Clark takes us inside their holiday shop.
That's right. It's always great to be at the Lord Baltimore. Yes, and with Lee, the well-dressed Lee. And Lee, this is your tree. And so tell us about this whole experience, because obviously you know what you're doing with your couture tree here.
How about it? So this is our 9th year.
Wow.
So really the designers this year really stepped up the game. I mean, when you look around, you can see some amazing work. This particular piece, so I was inspired by my visit to Longwood Gardens.
Nice.
They had an all roses couture tree last year, and I kind of took that imagination and